with the VA and a whole gamut of stuff within the nonprofit educational spaces. Um, and I love trauma. I love healing people. I love working with people, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. That warms my heart that you're excited to be here and to help people. So, first question, why did you get involved with helping people with trauma?
So it kind of fell into my lap because of my own like wounds or whatever. So I'm the child of immigrants, and for those who know, that comes with its own set of rules, right? To navigate like your home culture and to navigate the the main culture. So kind of have to code switch consistently. There's not necessarily like a playbook that you can follow, right? And there's all of these added pressures because you're like, yeah, we came here to make sure that you succeeded. And I'm East African, so the only acceptable careers for my family are pharmacist, lawyer, engineer, doctor, right? And I was originally doing pharmacy school. I hated it, but I was good at chemistry. I'm good at math. And my mom and I got into it, my parents and I. And I'm like, all right, I can't do this no more. Yes, I'm doing well, but on paper, but I'm not mentally doing well, right? I hate this. I can't foresee myself doing this for the rest of my life. We got into it. I quit school for like a year and a half. They're like, okay, fine. You want to be a social worker? You want to be poor? Go do it. And I just kind of wanted to be the person that I always needed during those times. Like I didn't see, I grew up in a predominantly a white neighborhood, so I didn't see a lot of teachers or educators who looked like me. I didn't have necessarily somebody who understood my story. Now it's a lot more diverse. But I wanted a me for the me's. So I was like, okay, by healing my own wounds, I want to help others heal their wounds too.
What were some of the ways that you're able to identify those wounds and then realize, okay, I need to heal these because if I don't, I may be a person that I don't like, I don't love, and I want to be loved and liked. By myself, of course.
Yes. Um, so I got married right after college, and I didn't know necessarily what that meant, what it entailed. I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. So I knew it wasn't like the fairy tales that I read, and I grew up with like my parents, they had like a marriage, but it wasn't necessarily like idealized. Like they both worked extensive amount. Um, they're still married to this day, but it wasn't there weren't that warmness that I craved, right? So I was like, okay, it's not what my parents have, which clearly worked for them. And it's not what I seen in books. And I wanted a version of it. And I got into this marriage, didn't know how to communicate my own needs, didn't even know what my own needs were. And I kind of expected it to make me whole, right? Like you're given this playbook, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, and you like follow this thing, and none of it kind of fixed me internally. Um, so needless to say that marriage ended. And before I got back out there, I was like, okay, I need to know who I am as a person and what it is that I want, what it is that I need. I did an extensive amount of traveling. I did a whole bunch of jobs, which ultimately led me to my master's program. But there was a lot of trial and error in that time frame to like find myself and what it is that I envision my life. And throughout it, I learned that I can't look at my life through somebody else's lens. I need to look at it through my own lens, right? I need to define happiness for me. What happiness looks like for me may be different from what it looks like for you.
What does happiness look for you today versus what it may have looked like for you, let's say 5, 10 years ago?
So happiness 5, 10 years ago looked like other people's approval. Like, these dopamine hits when you post on social media and you like have X amount of likes or, you know, um, just other people like, oh, I got this job and, having people's reaction. And I did it for they say for the fans. I'm doing it for the fans. I was doing it for the fans, right? But now it looks like, what do I want? What do I need? Like, do I need a slow morning? Do I need a cup of coffee? Do I need just to like sit there and veg out on all these books that I have on my bookshelf that I haven't read? So I take it very much day by day, and I only choose opportunities that pour into me and feel aligned with my values.
So we do for the fans, but sometimes we do for the haters as well.
Now I just do it for me. So it's whatever comes off. Like, you can hate it or love it, right? 50 said it.
I
Don't matter
That's
to
one of
me.
my favorite songs. So you know
But
what? A woman after my heart. She's quoting one of my favorite songs. I love it.
hate it or love it. I'm gonna do me.
Yeah, I asked that because when I was growing up, I grew up without my mother and my father. I didn't have the ideal family situation from a different lens, to use your words.
Hmm.
So I said, Terrain, you want to be a part of a healthy family. So what I did was at 19, I was dating someone and we met each other's parents. We're like, okay, we're going to get married. And then something happened. I was like, oh, I don't know about this, Sammy. I don't know about this. Right? I'm like, am I doing it to compensate for something I was missing, or is this true love?
Yeah.
A year after that internal conversation, the relationship was over. And I was like, oh, okay, that kind of solves itself. The universe is universing, right?
Hmm.
And then I had to go on a journey to understand what is it ultimately that I want. And once I entered my 20s, it took me 10 years to figure it out because I was just screwing up every place possible. Nothing bad, it's just I didn't have a safe space. When
Well,
you're working with some people, do you see people struggling to find that safe space?
yeah, all the time. And I'm going to correct you real quick. I don't necessarily think you were screwing up. You were just learning yourself, right? How you talk to yourself is extremely important, and the things you tell yourself is extremely important. So I kind of want to check you on that, in the
I'll,
best
I'll take that check. I'll take that check. Absolutely.
way.
I wasn't screwing up. I was growing and learning.
Yeah, because how do you know what you like or what you don't like or what doesn't fit until you actually do it, right? You don't know. You need that. Sometimes you need those data points, right? And I work with a lot of clients, especially high achieving Black women, who like are bosses, right? And they've like checked off all the things and they still feel empty, right? They have the car, the accolades, the job, the position, and there's still something that's super dysregulated. They have to be in constant emotion. They don't know how to rest or how to just sit in that stillness because it's very uncomfortable, right? And it's because of these past experiences tell you that you got to go, go, go. And like that sitting can be foreign to them. And it is foreign to them, like teaching them how to, it's okay. Like the world's not going to end because you didn't answer the email. Like we're going to be all
Is
right.
that something that high achieving, in this case, women struggle with where there's a sense of vulnerability to be, it's okay to maybe fail because you can still learn from it?
Yeah, they see failure as the end all be all. And it's like reframing that, right? Like it's okay. Like the world is not going to fall apart because you didn't do X or, um, yeah, there's not this constant need to achieve. You are valid whether you achieve or not.
There was someone that I knew, she struggled with that. She divorced her partner. Well, sorry, they divorced. I think there's infidelity. And she struggled with success because that it defined her. Without my job, who am I? Because I don't have my marriage. I don't, there wasn't any children. So she didn't have that identity, but she was a wife for so long that when she wasn't a wife anymore, she went straight to work because that's the only identity that she has. So when it comes to high achieving, I can see that loss of identity, grieving the shifts in identity. Do you see that coming up as well?
Yeah, just grieving what you thought you would have, or grieving what you thought it would feel like to have those things, right? You've checked off all those boxes, you've done the work, and now you're not getting that same satisfaction that you thought it was going to give you. And you're grieving, like, dang, I done wasted 10 years, 15 years of my life to achieve X, and I got an X, and I'm still not happy or still not whole.
I couldn't imagine being trapped in that loop where it's like American dream. I went to school, I did well, I came out of school. I think my grade point is high enough. I'm out in the world and it's like, oh, the happiness that I was told from a child I don't have.
Yeah.
How do we help those people?
So it's two things. Like a lot of them have the insight, right? So they have like, oh, I know I'm X because my childhood was like this. I was like this, right? So they understand it from like a top-down approach, but they don't necessarily sit in those feelings, right? They won't sit in that grief. They won't sit in that sadness. And that's what you kind of need to process it. You need both approaches. You need to like understand, have insight, but you also need to feel it. So,
So
yeah.
so when I was going through what I was going through, then I needed that data point to say this is what I don't want. So the opposite or something as different as possible would be what I would want.
Yes. So we heal through new experiences, right? So you had that experience that was negative, right? So think of it as if you only try vanilla ice cream, right? And that's your only reference point for ice cream. You're like, oh, I hate ice cream. It's the worst thing I've ever had. And then I'm like, no, let's try some chocolate. And you're like, oh, this is my jam, right? And you're like, now you have a new data point and you have a new experience. And you're like, oh, okay, not all ice cream is bad. I just don't like vanilla. So you need new experiences to replace those experiences.
How scary are those new experiences for some people who are in between the old and the new?
Oh, extremely. It's extremely. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of like sitting in the unknowns. And part of like being comfortable in who you are is knowing that regardless, whatever the outcome is, you're going to be okay. Whether it fails or does really well, you're going to be all right. Like you're going to be okay. And that's part of trusting yourself, which takes time, right? You need to learn that safety. You need to have that safety as a foundation in order to really heal and like grow.
I came out of a relationship and I thought that, what's the term these young cats use these days? It was going to be my forever relationship, okay?
Okay, okay,
It's not marriage because we don't get married in 2026 anymore. We're forever together, okay?
okay.
So,
I want
okay.
to unpack why you're not getting married, but go ahead.
For is that for another episode or is that for today?
I mean, maybe for another episode. Today we're going to focus on this, but I'm interested to
Gonna
hear
do that.
like,
I didn't even know what it was until someone said it to me, and I was like, okay, so describe this forever relationship. So it's everything but the legal document. I was
uh-huh.
like, oh, I'm old enough to remember that was common law, or as our parents probably called it, living in sin, and all these other words. But when I exited out of that relationship, during it, I learned that the way that we wanted to be loved was different. She wanted to be loved in a certain way. I want to be loved a certain way. And it was actually a trigger for the two of us from a childhood experience. So if we use, let's say, the love languages,
Hmm.
gift giving was hers. That's how she showed you love. Mine was words of affirmation.
Okay.
So for me growing up, anytime that I would ask my parents something and they wanted me to be quiet, like, here, Tori, here's a toy. So it was like, it was associated with a bad experience.
All right.
Hers being a woman, the guys who wanted to maybe date her, you're attractive, you're pretty, empty words. So we had to work separately to heal that, but we did it so one, we could be better and two, our relationship can thrive. What I found with some people who are working together, they'll say that, okay, I'm going to do this healing journey for you. They're not necessarily doing it for themselves. In general, why do you think some people get caught up in saying that I'm going to do this work for you when in reality it should be for themselves and then it's going to be for the relationship that they're in?
A lot of that, they don't have a stable foundation to really understand, or they don't know who they are really, right? So they're attaching their values, and I can't speak obviously for that particular person, but generally speaking, um, they might not know who they are. They might not know what they value. They might attach their value to you or to that relationship, right? It's saying that if I have this, then I'll be good, right? And it's the same thing with achieving. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this so that this relationship can be good, and therefore I'll be good.
For the high achieving women in general, then, from your perspective, what are some of the common obstacles that they face in their relationships?
So I think there's a strong sense of independence, and not always, right? But healing happens in relationships, not in isolation. So like you need that, and that could be a therapeutic relationship, that can be a girlfriend, like a friend, a family member. It doesn't have to be this romantic relationship, but it has to be with somebody else, right? And via new experiences and via replacing those old things that you once had with something new.
So shifting from the old identity into the new one, as scary as it may be, because your body's used to one way, that's how you do it, but you have to do it within a relationship. Not necessarily romantic, but it could be a friendship, for example,
Yeah.
a support system.
Our support system, exactly. Friendship, family, whatever. Somebody. Another body.
Yeah, I hear so many stories where people will self-isolate thinking it's going to help them, but in reality, it's causing more harm than good.
Yeah, they get stuck in their thoughts. There's like they ruminate. There's no reality testing. They're just kind of like stuck, right? They harp on certain things. Actually leads to increased anxiety.
Yeah, the body keeps a score, as the book says, right? So it would definitely show you. I think was it Cardi B who said that I don't care what you guys think about me because you don't even like yourselves.
I don't know that one, but I agree. All right, like especially in today's world where everybody's hypercritical and everybody's this keyboard warrior online, right? We have a lot of people who are just filled with so much hate that they see somebody and they'll go in and just plaster a whole bunch of stuff on there and I'm just like, I'm gonna pray for you, like legit. Because only a healed person like takes the time to really go in on a complete and utter stranger.
Yeah, I was watching an interview where someone said, imagine if you had to pay $1 for every negative comment you posted online. How many people would actually post a negative
Yeah.
thought online?
That's true. I wish we could implement that, but that's part of free speech and part of their healing, right?
It is it because it could be that they're going through something and then that's how they're letting it go, not knowing that it's probably maybe not the best outlet for them long term, but it's a way for them to at least express themselves and figure it out. One thing I want to ask you about is generational trauma.
Mhm.
For some of us, we know the term, but we don't know the impact. So, what does that mean? And in general, what are some of the ways that it shows up in our lives?
Ooh, okay. So there's actually a physiological component to intergenerational trauma, right? So, drama trauma is carried, and don't necessarily quote me for it. I believe it's the either the grandmother or the grandmother, right? So your grandmother's experiences, especially for women, it's in the egg, and for men, it lives in the sperm. And you can see, so they did an experiment where with rats. And essentially, they exposed it to some kind of smell. I forget the smell. I read this in grad school, so it's been a while. But they exposed it to some smell, and they like rung a bell. And every time the rat smelled that, it had like this negative association with it. And the rat's kids and grandkids also had that adverse reaction to the smell. They were never exposed to it in the same way, but they still had that same physiological fear of that same smell. That tells us that essentially, like, especially with people who have migrated and like, lived through racism and all the other things that we've lived through, like it does not necessarily go away. It lives within us one way or another. And it necessarily it passes through behaviors, right? And the relationships, right? So sometimes you're emotionally unavailable, like your parents, you said your parents would like give you the toy because they couldn't talk to you. Or sometimes it's like they're overly controlling, right? Like mines were overly controlling because they were trying to protect me from the society that they didn't understand. Uh, or sometimes like they're so frustrated and flustered because they're overwhelmed with everything that they're constantly yelling and completely dysregulated. So they struggle with that. And then now you have a kid who now learns to yell at their kid because they were yelled at too, right? So it's kind of and it also passes itself down through like belief systems, right? So like I had a client that I work with and she was like her mom told her yeah, we're poor people, we're always going to be poor people. Mind you, she had a PhD, okay? And then like the client that I was seeing and she was like, yeah, we're just poor people, we're just always going to be poor people. And she like really inhaled that thought and that was the world, right? That was her lens that she seen life. And I'm like do you understand that you graduated top of your class in a really high PhD program? Like, No. But she didn't see herself that way. And it was because of her environment. And same thing with her grandmother and stuff like that. So yeah.
Thinking that you're going to be poor because your parents told you. It's like the child that was told that they're fat and ugly every day. And no matter how beautiful they look, no matter how slim that they may be, they're many of them are going to look at themselves as that fat and ugly child. And with all the issues these days that's impacting not only women but men as well when it comes to body image, it's unfortunate how limiting beliefs or instilled beliefs from outside of you can impact your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Your environment matters more than people think.
Goes back to that debate, right? Was it nature versus nurture?
I think it's both, really, right?
Yeah.
But nature, I mean, nature definitely plays a big thing. It has huge factors. Because you see, like, when they have separated twins and they still have the same behaviors, and the one twin who lived like this affluent life, and the other twin who like lived either middle class or poor, and they still have the same tendencies, right? So their environments were completely different, but their genes were the same. So they still had same responses to certain things, still had same viewpoints, still had similar levels of anxiety, things like that. So it was really interesting to what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like,
Yeah. That's always going to be a debate, right? Like, and to your point, you have two children in the house, and there's a difference of, let's say, 5 years. Well, the parents were one way 5 years earlier, right? It could have been that maybe they didn't have the job stability, maybe they didn't have the income level, maybe they were just new to being parents,
yeah, yeah,
right? 5 years later, they're seasoned, better
yeah. They're like,
job,
oh,
better,
yeah,
yeah, right? So it's you have two people in the household, but it's two different experiences, even though it's the same parents, but they weren't the same type of parent. 5 years earlier, 5 years even after that. When it comes to the emotional aspect of people that are on the journey, your clients, emotional overwhelm. What is emotional overwhelm?
ooh, emotional overwhelm can look like a lot of different things. It can mean just like literally don't have the capacity to do the things, right? It can look like burnout, it can look like shutting down, it can look like a lot of things, or it looks like really pushing themselves. So I think it really depends on the person and how that manifests itself. Sometimes it can lead to depression too. Like I'm not going to do anything. I can't do it. I'm so overwhelmed that I can't even begin to dig myself out of this, that I'm just going to sleep.
And then you're at the point where you just shut down.
Yeah, you shut down. You're like, okay, I can't do all, so I'm not going to do nothing.
I can't do all, so I'm going to do nothing. That happens.
Yeah, that happens. It happens more often than you think. Yeah.
I'm trying to look at my life, and sometimes I'll correct. I'm just like, can I do everything? Yeah. No. No, but there was a time where I felt that my value came from my performance. So I worked so hard. I did well in school. I performed at work. When I started to win the awards, I was like, I'm the greatest thing in the world.
Greatest thing since sliced
Until,
bread.
yeah, yeah, right. I remember telling, oh, some girls dating at the time, I'm like, I'm catnip, right? I was just the greatest thing in the world until I started to work even harder and I didn't win the award. So I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. There's more to this than the hard work. So I had to find my value instead of external things. I had to find it within myself. That's where I
Mhm.
found true happiness and true peace. When it comes to self worth and self value in general, what do you think are some of the struggles that people are facing to feel valuable to themselves before they feel valuable to others?
Sometimes they've never had the model of it too, I've learned, right? So they don't know what that even looks like. And it's kind of hard to mimic something you've never seen. Like, how do you know what a beach looks like if you've never seen a beach? So, like, if they always see people who are like high achievers, and especially in the social media world where everybody's out here chasing clout, um, or chasing the bag, then you learn to value material, right? Value accomplishments. Nobody's really like, yeah, I'm that person independent of X. You rarely hear that. So it's kind of hard to model when you've never seen it. And we live in such a superficial world.
So the reference point could be someone else's life.
Exactly. And I find that that's a lot of the cause of depression or like the sadness that my clients feel or people feel, myself included. I'm like, well, I have X, Y, and Z and I haven't accomplished X, Y, and Z, but she has this and she's not this and how come she got it and I didn't? And I'm like, wait, I can't be comparing my story to hers. Like, this is highlight reels. This is social media. I don't know what her actual day-to-day looks like, just like she doesn't know what my actual day-to-day looks like. So, like, making sure that my cup is filled regardless of that. And by the way, I cheer for everybody all the time, except for the haters. So I love to see people win and succeed and all the things. But yeah.
She's nice, but she's not that nice. So to the haters out there,
No, like, and I think that's part of the scarcity mentality, right? So I believe there's enough for everybody to win, right? I believe that you could do well. I believe I can do well. I believe she could do well, right? So I'm not trying to take her shine. I just want, my own shine too. No, baby girl, keep doing your thing. Like, keep winning, keep getting your back, keep whatever it is that you're doing. But I want to be there too. Like, I'm not trying to take away. I'm trying to add to my own. Yeah,
is there enough shine for everybody?
I think so. Why not? Like, why not? I think everybody's unique and everybody has their genius. Jay-Z said everybody has genius level talent, right? And I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's just about finding it and harnessing that. And I think we all have our skill sets. It's just some of us never find it, or some of us know it but don't really like are scared to show it because of one thing or another. But yeah, we can all out here be beasts. Don't let the billionaires tell you otherwise.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with that saying that we all have, I call it a superpower, but we all have that skill that is going to blow people away. It's just you have to find it.
Hmm.
And I think there's distractions, sorry, that prevents people from finding that passion, that genius level talent. I remember I'm a big fan of Star Trek.
Okay.
And there was an episode called The Masterpiece Society where instead of having people find their passion, they were bred for that passion.
Okay.
And it worked fine until they were introduced to another group of people that were better at that that passion in the whole society, right?
Yeah.
So then things began to fall apart because there's a competition, there's a comparison, because the measuring stick was, well, I'm the best because in society I'm the only one that does it.
Uh-huh.
They introduced someone else so they couldn't function because they're seeing someone else do something that was better than them instead of learning. They just, to your point, right? They're like, well, if you're shining, that means I can't shine. Comparisons, the thief of joy.
Yes.
How can we overcome that?
It's harder said than done. Especially in like again in today's age where we're on like our phones and looking at it for what it is, right? Like again, you scroll and you see, X doing Y. So it's hard. But I always remind myself, like, when you have these negative thoughts to kind of check it, right? To be like, okay, is this coming from me? Whose voice am I hearing? Is it my voice or is it, something I seen online, right? Is this me talking to myself or is this my insecurities talking? Like, who's talking here? And kind of check that. And I'm like, no, that person can do well and I can do well too. Like, there ain't no competition here. The only person I compete with is against myself.
I like that. You're running your own race.
Yeah, I'm running
You're
my own.
your own competition, right?
Mhm.
That has worked for me in so many different ways because once I was able to say that I'm going to be the best terrain because I want to work on things that maybe I feel holding me back. Could be I grew up poor, so money was a sensitive thing. I need to work on that. I'll struggle in relationships. I want to be able to identify the type of person that I want to be with and how I could be a good partner for them as well. I started to listen to that voice versus the voice of, okay, I need to maybe people please. the limiting beliefs, the self-doubt, the different voices in our head. You mentioned um the reference points. You mentioned that we need to understand the new experiences. If someone is coming to you, for example, and they're saying, Smile, I'm having a difficult time. This relationship, it keeps failing. This is my fifth one. My parents hate me. Every time I go outside, the dogs are barking at me. Right? It just seems they're catastrophizing
Mhm.
their life. Do you work with clients that early in the journey, or do you get them maybe at a different point in it?
I do get them at all stages. I like to suss out what's actually real and what's not, right? Like I generally sit with them and kind of absorb their patterns. Like, and we look at things like, am I actually safe, right? Am I actually enough? And then where do I stand? Where do I want to be? And how do we get there? And we kind of create that roadmap together. And then I teach my clients how to catch things in the moment when the minute they start so that they don't catastrophize. And now it's like this thing, right? Um, so like say things to yourself like, am I comparing myself right now? Like when you realize like, oh, I'm not good enough or I'm never going to make it or this is my fifth failed relationship in, 1 year, right? Who am I comparing myself to? Maybe those people, five people weren't for me, you know? Like failure doesn't mean you're bad or it didn't, it's on you. Relationships fail, as you know, for many different reasons. You don't have to completely own it. I mean, I'm not saying don't take any accountability, but it's not necessarily all your fault. Sometimes it's not even like a he's a bad person thing. It's not a good fit kind of thing, right? You had relationships that kind of ended like on mutual terms, and it's just like, yeah, you're a great person, I'm a great person, but we just don't jive. So not necessarily like internalizing that, right? And saying that, oh, I'm not enough, which is why this relationship didn't work. So like just, instead of thinking like, and especially like in this comparison world that we live in, a lot of clients say I'm behind, right? Or like I should be further along, right? And they'll look at somebody and be like, oh, he's further in his career and we're the same age and he's done X, Y, or she's done X, Y, and Z. So your brain is basically collapsing the two ideas together. And basically, my job is to help them pull them apart to understand that they're two different things, right? They're not the same. Like your journey is not going to look like his journey. Your journey is your journey.
I've seen because I work with mostly women from a coaching perspective, and I've seen women struggle with that because the majority of the women I work with are over 50. And I've heard things that, well, I'm too old for love. Love doesn't
Mhm.
expire. You can find love at any age.
Yeah.
And two, because they're of that, like I don't know your age, but we look like we're around the same age. Because they're of that generation, many of them were married earlier in life, let's say around their 20s. That's just a
Mhm.
thing, right? They went to
Yeah.
the farmer's market, they dropped their handkerchief, he picked it up, they went on the 5 cent ferry.
Uh-huh.
Love is in the air, right?
Yeah.
Different movie. These days, our generation, we gotta work. Right? We gotta do a lot of things. So when I hear them say that, my heart almost breaks for them because I can see it in their face, in their body language, and hear it in their words that they truly believe that they're too old for love. When you say it's when you say that some people think it's too late, is it an age thing, a mentality thing, or maybe a combination of both or something else?
I think it's a combination of both, right? It's sometimes all they've seen is like again, like the reality testing, right? They've never seen people get remarried in their 50s or 60s. I have. They're wonderfully happy. Um, and it's the best relationships of their lives. And sometimes it's I feel most behind in that realm in my life, in that arena, and I don't know if I can ever catch up. Maybe love is not for me. Maybe I'm not deserving. Maybe I'm not going to get it. And I believe you can have it all.
I 100% believe you can have it all. I wonder where do you think that comes from in general? That I'm behind, I'm late.
Oh, I think it's the comparison usually isn't random. So it's like, again, a whole bunch of data points. But I usually ask them, like, when a client be like, oh, I'm behind, I usually ask them, is it like in your career or is it like in your relationships? Well, if they're not married, is it like financially, right? Or is it like your appearance? Like, you thought you would have like lost certain weight or like have a certain lifestyle. And usually that tells us like where their core insecurity lives, right? And it's not just random. It's not like random piece of data and kind of use that to build upon it. And a lot of it's like that low insecurity and that unstable identity, right? That's attached to it and that constant need for that external validation.
I'm supposed to be here at 20, 30, 40, 50, and where I'm supposed to be in my 20, if I do it at 25, I'm 5 years behind. So everything pushes forward 5 years.
Hmm.
Generalizing it and making it simple, but something
Yeah,
along those lines.
yeah, yeah. It's exactly what it is. It's I'm supposed to be married and have kids by 30, right? I'm supposed to, and then you're 30 and you're still working on your bachelor's degree. You've been single for 6 years, and now all of a sudden my life is ending, right? Because I don't have the marriage, the job, the degree, the house, the kid. This is what my life was for. And it's just like, who told you that was what your life was supposed to be like?
Your life is ending at 25. Imagine that.
Yeah. 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 It's these new Gen Zers are like, I love them, but I always look at them. I was like, is this what other generations looked at us like? Because I'm like, you can't be for real. Like some of the stuff I'm like totally on board with, like the advocacy, the extreme mental health, but then also they use mental health to like debilitate them. They're like, oh, I'm triggered right now. Okay. Take a minute and then come back. Trigger doesn't mean you get to take a week off, right? Like,
I'm triggered. Okay, bye. See you in a month.
yeah, then they really be like, "Oh, she triggered me. Now I gotta go." And I'm like, "No, you have to learn the difference between discomfort and pain, right? Discomfort is normal. Like that's part of growing and learning, right? They take every like adverse experience and now I'm triggered. No, 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 baby. That's part of learning. And you have to work through that. Pain is the problem, right? You don't want to push through pain, but you want to push through this discomfort. So it's very interesting.
It is. It is. I worked with someone that she had a disability
Hmm.
or she had a trigger. I'm trying to remember how she said it because it was a self-diagnosis. So
Hmm.
it wasn't a doctor or anyone. It was just I experience this, I feel that, which is fine because you have the awareness now. And she used it as in a way a crutch. And the reason why I say that is anytime she would do something negative to someone, she'll say it's because of this. So it led her to be very alone, and it led her to be difficult to be with just because on the surface it came across to your point, right, where there's a lot of discomfort, and the question would be, okay, how do you want to resolve it, or what do you want to do to work towards it? And she was, I'm not going to do anything. So I was like, okay. So people started to disappear, and then she stopped using it, and then all of a sudden it went away. And I share that sometimes because you want to be understanding and sympathetic for people, like we all are, right?
Of course, yeah, of course.
But then when you realize that you're being taken advantage of, that's where like, oh, that's kind of tough, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah,
nobody wants to feel like they're getting the short end of the stick ever.
I think it was there's a quote where you want to show up for people, but don't forget to show up for yourself first. Because if you don't show up for yourself, then maybe you won't be able to help people in the way that you think you want to help people. And some people don't want to be helped. Some people are very comfortable in their mud.
They're comfortable in their discomfort. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're very
The
comfortable.
chaos is normal.
Yeah, they've normalized it because that's again, sometimes that's all they know. Sometimes that's all, and then also life is about your perception, your lens, right? you have confirmation bias. Like your brain literally looks for what you tell it. You tell it everything's going to be great, it's going to find signs that everything's going to be great. You tell it it's going to be catastrophe, it's going to find all the signs about why this is a catastrophe. So it's important that you feed it like good things and you tell it like, all right, right now it sucks, but it's going to be better in 5 minutes, or the day is going to end better. So it's how it comes off and exactly how you talk to yourself shows up. It shows up in so many different places. How you present yourself, how you act, how you're emotionally regulated or dysregulated.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier, like the words that I was using for my situation I was screwing up. Reframe that.
Yeah.
Positivity, right?
Yeah, reframe it. Yeah. Yeah.
How can we help people to do that reframe and be more positive, more gentle in the way they speak about themselves?
I always ask, like I said, one of the things I do is like, who's speaking right now? Like, whose voice is that, right? When like I have clients who are like, oh my God, I totally, dropped the ball on X, right? And I'm like, who's saying that? Is that your voice? Is that your mom's voice? Is that society's voice? Like, who's actually saying that you dropped the ball? Um, and just like recognizing that and harnessing that, and then sometimes you did drop the ball, but it's okay because you can figure it out, right? That's part of life. Like you're not everything's not going to be always tied up in this neat bow. It's going to get messy. And that's what it is. It's about being regulated during those difficult times, right? It's inevitable. Life has peaks and valleys. It's never going to be on a high all the time. So how do you control when it's not going your way?
Mm. Because what you've done or what you're doing when it's on a high will be different than what you're doing when it's on a low.
Exactly. Exactly, right? So how do you pour into yourself? How do you take a step back? How do you like, maybe do a 360 and reevaluate? Like maybe this job is not for you, and maybe this is telling you, like, I keep dropping the ball. Maybe I don't need to be here. This is not my industry. I'm constantly fighting with my boyfriend. Maybe this is not the right relationship, right? Um, just things like that. Like use these data points and like kind of like don't make rash decisions, but like kind of sit with it and really suss it out.
But I don't want to be alone in an empty house.
Yeah, that's true. But it's better to be alone and happy than. Okay, so the thing about it is when you're constantly looking for that external validations and things like that, right? Those external validations are always going to control you, right? So what you need is actually your values, like who you are, right? And if you don't know, you can figure that out. And it can't just be outcome driven. It needs to be, um, how do you align your values in your actions, right? Where's that alignment? And what does that look like for you?
So no more external validation or attention, meaning that if it's the relationship, if it's the cars, if it's the house, if it's the money, if it's the success, maybe you want to look internal because those things are always going to control you. And the minute you don't have them, you're wanting and you're wondering.
And you're depressed and you're sad and you're like, why me? Right? Why don't I have that? Yeah, it's not good.
But someone down the street has it. And now are you envious? Are you mad? Are you going to go break into their house and take it? Like there's all these things that potentially could happen because you're so tied to these external things where you're sitting in your home maybe and you're like, there's six things that's gonna make me happy. I have five of them. That one thing is driving me crazy. I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
gonna do.
And then you get that one thing, and it's like, okay, I have six things now. I need seven, right? It's that constant chase, and then you get that seven, and it's like, okay, now I need eight, right? It's that greed is it's unsustainable. It's a hole that you won't be able to fill when you're constantly trying to fill it with other things. The only way to fill the hole is by filling it with you.
You're pouring into a cup with a hole in it and you don't even notice it's pouring out.
Yeah, literally, right? Coke got holes in it. So whatever you pour in, it's pouring right back out, like you said.
Let me ask you one final question, but I want to give you three wishes for this question.
Okay.
You have Aladdin's genie lamp. You can't wish for more money. World peace,
Ah,
maybe, but not more money.
okay.
What are three things you wish people knew about emotional regulation and why?
That you heal through experiences, right? And that insight alone is not enough, right? You can know all your trauma, your triggers, but you need to actually sit in those feelings. Um, and then my third one would be, this is a hard one. I want to make it a good one. Mm, mm. You can mimic safety, but if you're not actually safe,